Canada is facing an increasing labor shortage, and the federal government's solution to this challenge is increased immigration. It aims to welcome 432,000 immigrants to Canada this year alone. Sean Fraser is the Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship of Canada. He's in Ottawa. Minister Fraser, welcome to the show.
A pleasure as always. Thanks so much.
So, sir, you're hoping to welcome 432,000 immigrants to Canada this year alone, but you've already got a backlog, right? So you're going to be increasing the processing capabilities and support for these newcomers.
Look, you're absolutely right. And let me start by saying that the ambition outlined in this year's Immigration Levels Plan is really driven by the need to have more people to meet the economic needs of Canada. With 900,000 job vacancies across the Canadian economy, we need more people to fill those jobs so the businesses can grow and so that we can also sustain the jobs of Canadians who've been living with the uncertainty of not knowing whether their employer would survive this pandemic. But on the processing issue, one of the most important pieces of this is that the answer to clearing the inventory of cases we're facing is not to shrink the number of newcomers that would come to Canada. We have to increase the number of new permanent residents so we can deal with the issue. But you're absolutely right. We need to profile more resources towards this. We've hired 500 new staff to help process it, put $85 million for short-term change that's going to clear some certain bottlenecks. And we're advancing the digital modernization of the system that will make a major difference in the long term as well.
There's already a class of workers that are here or here quite regularly, and those are migrant workers. We've seen a lot about them throughout the pandemic. When you look at this particular group, will they be given a faster path to settlement and citizenship here in the country?
Well, we had a really interesting experiment along these lines during the pandemic, because when our borders were closed to protect the public against the spread of COVID-19 during the pandemic, we pivoted our strategy to resettle more people as permanent residents who were already here on a temporary basis, many of whom were dealing with essential work in the healthcare system, others who were here on a temporary basis as temporary foreign workers or international students. In my mandate letter, you'll notice that there's actually specific commitments to create pathways to permanent residency for temporary foreign workers, for international students, but also for those who are here without status that are making a meaningful contribution to their community. We've got some policy work to do before we advance new streams of immigration to reflect these particular groups, but it's something that we're looking at closely so we can help make sure that we don't exacerbate the labor shortage and instead bring solutions to the table to make it better.
Right, but while you're boosting the number of immigrants you're going to welcome to Canada, there is the number of refugees is going to be decreased. So why do you need to do things that way?
Well, there's actually a significant increase in the number of overall refugees, and this reflects the fact that we are resettling 40,000 Afghan refugees. And just to put this into perspective globally, Canada is the world leader when it comes to refugee resettlement. Many of the last few years, Canada was not just a leader on a per capita basis, but on a raw numbers basis. In 2020, Canada resettled 1/3 of the world's total refugees. This is something that should make us very, very proud to be Canadian, because my experience, particularly on the heels of the Syrian refugee effort, was that these are people who are starting businesses in our community, who are making our communities more vibrant and dynamic places to live. And we're going to continue to welcome refugees at a rate that outpaces most of the world in the years ahead.
Right, but the math I'm looking at now is 77,000 this year, 74,000 in 2023, and then 62,500 in 2024. So there is a decline there. I mean, why is that? Is that because you anticipate living up to the Afghan commitment, or is this just a reduction, or what's the reason for that change?
So I misunderstood your question, and let me clarify. So the increase that I was referring to is an increase on the previous years that you would have seen if you go back historically. You've nailed it exactly. We expect to complete the Afghan resettlement initiative with 40,000 landing here by next year. When that is complete, we will still have a world-leading number of refugees, but it may be a little bit less once we complete the mission in Afghanistan. Okay,
so about what, 7,500 of the Afghan refugees have been resettled to Canada? I mean, how optimistic are you that you can hit this 40,000 target in the time frame you've allowed?
Look, very, very optimistic. And the reason I'm optimistic is not just because I'm an optimistic person by nature. We're actually seeing a regular pace of arrivals. We now have more than 7,700 Afghan refugees who are in Canada today safely. We have more flights arriving every week. In the last few weeks, we've seen over 460 arrive on 20 different commercial flights. We're going to see more chartered flights arriving in the weeks and months ahead. I feel very good about where we're at right now because of the regular pace of arrivals. And to see the welcoming nature of Canadian communities gives me community faith. We're not just going to get people here, we're going to set them up for success in the long term. And when I'm retired from politics one day, looking back on what we've done, I know that this is going to be something I was very, very proud to be involved with.
You've had those challenges, though, sir, with the backlog and the applications and the processing, directly with the Afghan refugee targets. I mean, how close is that to being cleared up? And the 500 resources you mentioned in the beginning, is that for global immigration, or is that aimed specifically at this particular project?
So the 500 additional processing staff that we're adding are for the immigration system across the board, and this builds on other capacity that we've added over the last number of years. With respect to the processing of folks in Afghanistan, we actually really do see a lot of progress, particularly with the groups who've got their processing done, the biometrics complete, and who've made their way outside of Afghanistan. There are very serious remaining challenges for those who are still inside the country, because we are dealing with a territory where the Taliban, a listed terror organization under Canadian law, has seized control. They do not have interest in welcoming Canadian officials into their borders. And if they even wanted to facilitate the resettlement of people from inside Afghanistan, they wouldn't be very good at it. They're people who don't know how to run an airport. They don't know how to issue travel documents. We are working with partners in the region, like-minded states around the world, and international organizations to help solve the problem of securing safe passage of people inside of Afghanistan. It's the thing I've spent more time on than anything else since I've been appointed minister. I am confident we're going to make good on our commitment to get to 40,000 by next year, but we have to keep working to solve some of these challenges along the way.
Okay, Minister Sean Fraser, thank you so much for your time.
A pleasure as always. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, sir.